Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it. So here's what you get. From Canada, Ryan and
Jason.
Welcome to another episode of the Worst of the Best podcast. I am your host, and with me today, and rightfully so for this episode, we'll explain as we go through it, but my brother, Jason. Jason, how you doing?
Doing well. Yeah. How are you?
Well, my voice might sound a little bit off, and I apologize. I'm just getting over the vid. Like my first time having it. Yeah, my first time having COVID. It's real. It's not a conspiracy. Well, put it this way, I know the virus is real, but that's all I'll say about that. However, yeah, it's a really bad cold. There was a 24-hour period, definitely, where I was like, oh, I don't want to throw up. I don't want to throw up. So I felt nauseous. I had achy joints. So definitely flu-like symptoms with a bad cold. So I'm feeling energetic. My energy is totally back. I went jogging yesterday, for example, but I still have cold symptoms. So that's the tail end of it. And so it's that lingering voice effect that it has when you have a long cold. So that's what you're hearing in my voice if it sounds a little bit different.
Well, we're glad you're here. I'm getting over now a cold as well. My voice might sound a little bit gravelly. It is another bad cold, second one in 2 months. I work around thousands of people. So I tend to, I guess I'm picking up whatever people are bringing in.
Right.
Whether it's cold or COVID for the second time, I have no idea.
Right.
I didn't bother testing this time.
Yeah, I only tested because originally I thought I had a cold, but it stuck around a little bit more and I just had a cold like 2 weeks previous or whatever. So, and I have to test for work. So that was the biggest reason.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite sick. Like I actually haven't been that sick for a while. I was like, okay, this does feel a little bit different. And oh boy. Anyway, so it's the first time I tested positive. So it's probably the first time I've had it.
What you probably needed was a little bit of Dr. Feelgood to make you feel better.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Dr. Feelgood.
How's that for a segue?
Oh, that's perfect. This way people clamor for the show. Hey, welcome to the show. If you're listening to this episode because you are a Mötley Crüe fan, specifically if you are a Dr. Feelgood album fan, well, welcome to the show. What Jason and I will do is we will pick a topic, musical artist, actor, whatever, the conspiracy theory, doesn't matter. And what we do is we talk about the best things from that topic, and then at the end of the episode, independent of each other, we reveal what we think is the worst from the best. Now, with Mötley Crüe's Dr. Feelgood album, this album is considered by many critics and fans to be their greatest work, their greatest achievement, and at the very least, whether you think that's the case or not, it is their top-selling album, studio album of all time. I didn't factor in their greatest hits albums or what have you. I think those have sold well, but this is their number one selling studio album. And a couple of things I found interesting, Jason, is Dr. Feelgood was their first and only number one hit on the charts, which I find odd that they didn't have number ones, though they've always been a very popular 80s, early 90s. I mean, to this day, they're a touring band, of course, for their nostalgia reasons, and rightfully so. They're a fun band. But I thought they just had more number one hits, from Home Sweet Home. And
yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't think they had a massive radio appeal. And that was what separates this album from their other albums. They were hard rock genre that was, well received for years, obviously, or they wouldn't be as big as they are. But as far as radio friendly music, most of their music really wasn't radio friendly for the most part. So I'm not surprised.
Did you know the Mötley Crüe themselves, as a band, they have sold over 100 million albums worldwide. That's not a bad showing.
Well, no. I mean, how many tours have they done? And they still sell out basically everywhere they go.
Yeah. So this album, Jason, was released September 1st of 89. We were just about to enter the school year, my 9th year, grade 9, and you, grade 11 year. You and I were fans of Mötley Crüe in the sense of, I know before this album came out, I remember we watched, of course, the Wild Side video on Much Music here in Canada. That's the MTV version of the music videos here in Canada. I remember enjoying and liking Smoking in the Boys' Room. We had a copy, of course, Shout at the Devil when we were kids.
I was a fan since Shout at the Devil.
Right.
Do you recall us doing the air band of them in that Evans Drive in the basement there? We would do an air band.
Right.
Of Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, that's right.
Lip syncing between at least me and you, or at least I recall doing that. I've been a fan of their music since, what would that Shout at the Devil would have been grade 5, 4.
Right.
They're a part of pretty much my whole growing up years, developmentally, in the music world for us. They were very much the bad boys. Grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. I mean, we didn't see them as the characters that they play.
Right.
We saw them as very much these bad, rebellious rock people.
That's right. We did have a long history with these guys. And when we're, of course, I'm almost 14. You're 16 at the time of the release of this album. So now we're kind of in our mid-teens. We're growing up a little bit. We kind of see through maybe the silliness of before. Because even Mötley Crüe in the early days, who kind of wore makeup, not quite Kiss-heavy makeup, but they had a bit of 80s costumes and what have you. But when this album came out, this was right at the tail end, of course, of the 80s. We're about to bleed into the 90s. Some of their singles were released in early 90 from this album. So there was kind of a churning of bands, so to speak. And I do want to do it on the show. I want to review or talk about Poison's Flesh and Blood album. So certain bands started to do kind of a mature, thicker type sound. And with this album, it really showcases Mötley Crüe as the original 4 members, a sound that still had this glam metal, but it was more mature in many ways. Even though the lyrics have still kind of fun party stuff, it was just a culmination of peak songwriting for the band and maturity that there's no gimmick here in the sense that, Shout the Devil's like, we're a satanic band, ooh, or girls, we're a party band that goes to the strip clubs. Look at us, we're such bad. This was more of a...
I mean, everything you're saying, production-wise.
Right.
Production-wise, you're correct. But now looking back, like I had mentioned this to somebody yesterday, that we're going to be doing this album review on our podcast. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Dr. Feelgood. And she's like, this could be hard to pick the worst song. And I'm like, is that because there's a lot of bad songs to choose from or a lot of good songs? And it's going to be hard to choose the bad one. She jokingly said, well, it's probably because there's a lot of bad songs.
Interesting.
And I haven't listened to this album in quite some time. I kind of thought to myself, I bet this album has not aged well. I suspect there's probably about 3 songs that are rather decent, and the most of it is mediocre. And if I was to pick a Mötley Crüe album to listen to, this wouldn't be the one. This, at the time, as you say, sounded very mature-ish. Production-wise, it was more fleshed out. As far as what I would want from a band of Mötley Crüe, this isn't the album that I want. I want their older, darker, heavier feel, because I think ultimately that's more authentic to them. They made good commercial sense to do what they did. And Bob Rock definitely helped them achieve that. Like, it was needed. For them, it was needed to propel them into where they are today. I don't think they'd be where they are today as far as being able to still sell out arenas and stadiums, etc., without this album, because of its cross appeal to the masses. And then so I started to quickly just skip through the songs yesterday. I have to agree with my interpretation of that. It's really not that great of an album as far as, I mean, we'll get into it. Obviously, this is what we're going to do now. I didn't listen to every song straight through per se, but I refreshed my memory. I was kind of shocked by my reaction to kind of just shrugging my shoulders at the album.
Put this up on our socials a little bit just to let people know, like, hey, build a buzz around this big podcast episode that we're doing, Dr. Feelgood. And our 2 comments from our listeners. Of course, I knew I was going to get, and it was from my buddy Craig there. He was like, same idea, like, which song was the worst? There's so many to choose from, haha. I'm like, I was prepared for this. But you know what? I'm going to come from the side a little bit defending the album. For those who are listening to this, I don't want people to think, and I know you're not doing that, but I want people to know that I love this album, and I think part of it might be nostalgia, and I understand that. Like, keep in mind, when this came out, I was 14. So this is that's young, number one, but this is right in the peak of my... I'm listening to Aerosmith and AC/DC's Razor's Edge. All these great, incredible albums for our youth were coming out at this time. And I think this album, the reason why it means a lot to me in some ways is because it was the first tour we saw, right? This was the first concert you and I saw was this tour.
As a reflection, how I felt at the time.
Right.
I loved it. And I loved the fact that they were bigger than they ever were. I love the fact that they played, if I remember correctly, like MTV Music Awards and maybe even other larger, more public appeal to the band, which was validating to me as a fan. And I didn't think quite negatively of it then. It's just as I reflected, I don't go to this.
No, and I don't either.
Songs,
I don't either.
I don't go to these songs on this album.
Not very many of them.
I would go way deep. Yeah. I want their harder hitting.
I feel you, and I love Theater Pain is probably their most underrated album. I love their earlier stuff, Dark Stuff. Of course, their debut album is amazing. I mean, I love Crüe. I'm a huge fan. You're right. Objective, Ryan. Put a gun to my head. My family's life depends on the truth. Well, of course, I recognize this album isn't Pink Floyd's The Wall. Like I know that. But for nostalgic youth, windows down on my car. We'll get to some of the songs that just, you hear them, and there's a couple that are just still bangers to this day.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. There'll be 3 or 4. I'm like, these are decent.
Yeah.
And really, as I was skipping through the songs yesterday, I'm like, this is a very mediocre.
There's a few songs in particular. Yes, we'll get to them. But I even felt that way at the time. Now, that's the thing, is I want to be clear that I love this album for what it means to me in my youth, what it meant to me, and where I was with music in general. Culmination of all the music I loved of Crüe before this album came out. Where this album falls into the lexicon of Mötley Crüe's music journey, and I'll say Metallica's, is the same type of thing. What's happening here, ironically, is with Bob Rock are both involved in this discussion. Is yes, you're right. Yes. This album became commercialized Mötley Crüe to a stardom that they didn't have before. Just like Metallica's Black Album did with Bob Rock.
I was thinking the same thing, Bob Rock.
With the Black Album, it's their biggest commercial success, yes, for Metallica, but it's actually one of my least favorite albums from them. I think that's kind of what you're saying here with this one, is though this is their biggest selling album, it brought them into the lexicon of fandom, and it made it so they can tour 30 years later. They're basically still touring. Good for them. Why not? If you can do it, just do it. Have fun. Doesn't matter how it is. People are showing up and having fun, because I think there's all these adults who are our age going to these shows are just reliving their memories of youth and having a good time. I get what you're saying here, but we're going to get to those. So just like the Black Album, there's some real bangers on that album that still last a long time. I think this album is the same. But however, professional ratings for this album, Jay, the review scores, Old Music, BBC Music, Chicago Tribune, Classic Rock, LA Times, Record Collector, Rolling Stone album, top scores throughout.
For sure. And they were reviewed at the time. I would be interested to see people place their albums. Let's go like from Dr. Feelgood back. I don't care about the stuff kind of after Dr. Feelgood. But if you did from their first album to Dr. Feelgood and place this album in there.
It's middle. I think it's the middle at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you could polled 1,000 Crüe fans, I think it would fall top third middle at the very least. Some would even place it at their first again. Depends when you heard it. I think you and I, because we heard a lot of Crüe before this album, we can do that. We can say it's not our, but we are grateful for it in a sense that it's given the legacy to the Crüe that we probably wouldn't. Well, we wouldn't be doing this episode without it. I don't know which album we would be doing. Let's talk about it.
I was 16-ish, and you were 14-ish. I can't remember. It came out September 89.
September of 89, and just before that school year started. But we saw them live, our first concert. I was 14. You were just turned 17 in June. Because we saw them June of 1990. This was our first show. And I got the set list here, Jay. This is kind of fun. So here's what they played. They played 19 songs.
That show...
Well, it's peak Crüe, right?
Yeah.
This is their Feelgood, Dr. Feelgood tour. So they had this is like peak Crüe, their peak health. This is the most sober they've ever been as a band. This album was recorded when their peak sobriety. For better, for worse, could explain the sound of their album. First song, Kickstart My Heart. So that was the first song that opened.
Do you remember how that started?
Yeah. They came out of the stage. They bounced out underneath the stage.
Underneath the stage, and they came flying up.
It was weird. It was that big opening.
That was awesome. Yeah. That was awesome.
Do you remember the second song, by chance?
No.
I know.
You're going to have to go.
Red Hot.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, Red Hot. And then they kind of went down a little bit with Rattlesnake Shake. Fair enough.
Ironically from Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah. Well, they did a few here, which it's kind of cool piece of history because they're promoting their album, right? So they got a few cuts here that you would never hear again that you and I heard. So Rattlesnake Shake Live, Too Young to Fall in Love, Shout at the Devil, Live Wire, Same Old Situation, Slice of Your Pie. Then they had the good Mick Mars guitar solo and the Tommy drum solo, Looks That Kill, Don't Go Away Mad, Smoking in the Boys' Room, Without You, Wild Side, Girls, 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 Home Sweet Home, Dr. Feelgood, and then Jailhouse Rock was their closer. So what a fun show. And I remember leaving that concert, and that was the first time I realized, we probably should wear earplugs at a show. Oof.
Dude, my ears were ringing for hours.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't even clue in to bring earplugs. I didn't even...
No, we'd never been to a show.
silly.
We had no idea what loud was. We had no idea.
Dude, that was loud.
Yeah.
Now my ears over the years have probably been damaged even more.
Maybe.
When I go to concerts now, I kind of bring earplugs and I sort of wear them kind of half in, half out, just to take away like the treble reverb of a building or whatever. I should have worn them then, for sure. Do you remember the hotel that we were in?
Yeah, we stayed at the Tropicana.
Tropicana. Sounds pretty high end.
It was terrible. We slept on the floor. The bed was hair-filled, pubes everywhere, and we actually slept on the floor in our jacket.
I think there was other stuff going on in that bed before we got there. Do you remember turning the TV on?
No.
And it blew up.
That's right. The TV did blow up when we turned it on. Yeah.
We turned it on and it went pop and smoke came out from the back of it.
I love when it's called Tropicana because that's a line, of course, from Girls, Girls, Girls. Tropicana is where I lost my heart. And so every time that I hear that song, I think of the Tropicana Hotel that we stayed at when I first saw Mötley Crüe. Our mom booked us the hotel. I think it sounded nice on the Yellow Pages, probably.
I think it sounded really good for the Yellow Pages.
I love it. Back in those days, you just had to kind of go, what was the picture in the Yellow Pages?
Obviously, I guess I drove. Do you recall how we got there?
I don't know. Man, it's so weird to think back then. You and I, 14, 16, going to Vancouver, traveling on our own, taking the bus. I think it was buses.
Yeah, I didn't have a car.
32 years ago. That's crazy. All right.
Dude, that was fun. Thanks for going with me.
Oh, yeah, it was a blast.
Now let's pick the worst song.
Yeah, well, here we go.
From the album. Okay.
The album opens with a song called, or a track or intro called TNT Terror Tinseltown. This is just a recreation, of course, of Nikki Sixx's coming back to life. He's OD'd, I think, at least twice he's OD'd. I think one time he was found in a garbage can or dump was one of the times. This one, though, is referring to the time that Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses helped revive Nikki Sixx, believe it or not, in a cold shower. And Steven Adler had his arm broken, and he smacks Nikki Sixx across the face in a cold shower to get him revived. So we can thank Steven Adler for saving Nikki's life.
We can also thank Steven Adler for being on Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, not a bad album. Check out our episodes there of Appetite that we did, and of course the Metallica Black album. Now we'll play the intro. It's not a song, and so it won't be picked as a worst song because all the band members have to participate. We do have some Mick Mars and drums and have you, but we don't have any. I think, does Vince even do a little bit of vocal effect? I can't remember, but it doesn't count. It's not a real song. We're not going to pick it. So, but we'll play it a little bit here just to get the feeling of the album, which I like because this is kind of Mötley Crüe's little concept album. You know what I mean? This is their concept album.
Well, this is providing the atmosphere.
That's right.
That they want to present the rest of the album.
Oh, and I will say, it will play it into. It's a great way to intro the opening chords to the title track and first official track on the album, Dr. Feelgood. Official song. Yeah, there's no Vince in this song, so yeah, this wouldn't count anyways. All the band members have to participate. And that soundbite there was used in Queensryche's album as well before this album. It's just a. Yeah. CPR's in progress. Here we go. It's funny, when this song first came out, I remember, I want to say that I never not liked it because that's not true, but I remember this is a song, funny enough, throughout the years, has actually really aged well. And you realize just, boy, how great that opening is. That bass by Nicky, of course, that whole intro. And I think what the song kind of suffers from is where you have the beginning and that intro is, I would say it's the highlight, but I'm not saying it gets ruined with Vince, because when Vince comes in and does the singing there, it's great. I think the chorus itself isn't that strong. It's a little bit not that great. And I felt that way even at 14. But that intro, boy, it's that choppy, chunky. This is a really fuller sound than we've ever heard before from Crüe. Like, they really just come in kicking here.
I still think this is a fairly strong song. They did a good job of that terror and Tinseltown, like the TNT. They didn't drag that intro thing out. It's just long enough to really give you the feel of the grit that they like to portray themselves as being the bad boys, right? Going into Dr. Feelgood, it's a strong opening song, strong, like you say, the bass, and the subject matter of that song, drug dealing, especially in the 80s, 90s, the war on drugs was front and center a lot of the times. I think it's a great opening track for this album, setting the tone.
It's always this kind of crazy thing, Jay, that, as you know, Nicky Sixx is the band leader. He writes all the lyrics of every song. It's interesting, the bass player
It's impressive.
Yeah. Nicky is an incredible businessman. He's actually a really smart guy, very articulate. I actually like him a lot. I like hearing him talk. The fact that he's still alive is amazing, and he looks pretty good for almost 60 years old today. So good for him. He says this, though. He goes, Mick started humming the main guitar riff, and he was like, what was that? And after 2 more plays, Nicky Sixx came up with the lyrics out of nowhere. He says, he's the one they call Dr. Feelgood. He's the one that makes you feel all right. And he has no idea why they came to him. It just rolled together. He goes on to say, I think the best songs unwind themselves naturally, musically. And it was Bob Rock who told him, you got to tell more of a story here. I want you to go back to these lyrics, whatever the original ones were. Bob Rock told him, like Bruce Springsteen does, I want you to tell a story with these drugs and these characters. And that's why we have the Jimmy character and everything like that. So it was Bob Rock that encouraged Nicky to kind of make it more of a story, something you could almost put to film.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I like hearing the making of an album, how the song comes together. I find that very interesting.
So let's hear a bit of Mick. Now, I'm going to showcase a lot of Mick throughout this album. He's quite a character. He's always looked dead, right? He's always looked 80 or at least 60. And like Tom Lee Jones, the actor, like Tom Lee Jones has never looked young. Even when you look at a Tom Lee Jones picture of him in high school, you can find a picture of him. He looks like he's 35 in high school. He's just one of those people who never look young. Mick Mars is like that too. Even though I did go back and watch some of these old music videos from the singles from this album, it's like, oh, Mick did look old. But as we get older, they look younger now. But that being said, Mick Mars, I always wondered, does he feel like he was cheated by being in this band? Because I feel like I don't mean that in a bad way, because they're a party band. They're a party band and what have you. But Mick can play, and people that know guitaring and know the guitar world, and people within the guitar world from other bands know that Mick Mars is a legitimate rock and roll guitarist.
He is a legitimate guitarist, and his riffs make these songs. Mm-hmm. He does not get that much credit as a guitarist.
I think because he's in Mötley Crüe, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Lee is as big as you're going to get as a character.
He's a character.
Nicky Sixx is the ringleader, the more articulate, intelligent individual in the band. And then Vince Neil just being the front man. Mick Mars, he's always been quiet.
Yeah.
Off to the side. He does have, I forget the disease. He's got
spinal something or other. It's
this bone ache. He hurts apparently all the time.
It's sad.
His ability to be mobile and energetic on stage is legitimately limited.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the way, because of that, his personality might be less expressive because he's unable to express himself on stage. So I think he gets overshadowed by the bigger characters of the band. He might be okay with that. But you're right, though. People who understand guitars and riffing, important riffs and how that impacts a song, he is very important to the sound of the band and the direction that the band goes musically.
love that part of the song. I love that Mick Mars, at least according to the music video, that's him doing that speaking part. I don't know if that's him in the album or not. I don't know. Come play with Dr. Feelgood. Is that him?
Yeah, that I don't know, but I just added to the darkness.
Right, yeah. Great guitar work. Here's the thing about Vince Neil. I know he can't do what he can do anymore on stage. There's been even some discussion that has never been able to do it. But Vince, he must be able to sing. I know there's voice work and auto, but they didn't have auto-tune back then. They could, as you said in previous episodes, you can cover a lot of sins in the studio. I understand that even in the early days of recording, but there has to be some sort of semblance of singing, but especially in these early days before computer alterations. Would there not be? You'd have to sing. Like, you and I go back in the studios of '89 and sing and have it fixed so we sound like Vince Neil? Because you and I can't sing.
No, he can sing.
Yeah.
Is he strong live? No.
No.
That hasn't really mattered. It's just now become very apparent.
Yeah, with cell phone footage and his weight and he's out of shape.
And the other thing, sadly, is he's not even singing the lyrics. It's not that he's not singing well. He's literally not even singing the song.
I will say, Dr. Feelgood is a tough one. There's a lot of lyrics coming at you fast and furious, but if you've watched there's some pretty funny videos of Vince Neil Quoto singing the song.
Videos. We saw them on their last farewell tour.
Yeah,
we
right.
brought our kids with us.
Yeah.
30 years later, there's us bringing our
Yeah, I know.
and he's literally not singing the songs.
You're there to watch a legacy on the stage, is what you're doing.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you're there to sing for Vince Neil.
You're singing.
That is what the crowd is for.
Yeah.
He'll go, no, Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Feelgood. That's how he sings the songs. He hums along and then says like one or two words. It's hilarious.
I love it.
You know what? I wish I could be a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
And do what he does.
Yeah.
Bring on the hate.
He's doing fine.
Yes. Oh, there's no problem.
He's not looking for money for his next meal. All right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you recognize that voice?
Yes. Steven Tyler.
Yeah. Keep in mind, you know why he was in the neighborhood during this time. This was recorded in Little Mountain Recording Studio in Vancouver. And right next door, they're working with Bruce Fairbairn for their Get a Grip album, which is an amazing Aerosmith album, which you and I will definitely cover. But, talk about a voice. And there's a guy that can sing live, though, still in his age. It's insane. Steven's voice has been a slice of your pie. I'm not sure what that's referring to. I guess they like desserts.
His voice sounds really good there.
Oh, yeah. This is a fun song. This is a song where I love how they came out with that mature type, Dr. Feelgood song, talk about the drugs and the streets and what have you. And we're a clean band now. We're like, this is our anti-drug song, so to speak, the dangers of drugs. They come out here, don't forget, we like the women. We like the women. Don't you forget, we like the ladies. They're still, I love it. I was going to say, what's their ages here? I think they're all about the same age. I'll just pick Vince Neil. So he was born in 61. This came out in 89. So yeah, they're between 27 and 29 during this album, Jay.
I'm surprised they're that young.
They're under 30. And This is their 5th studio album.
What a productive band.
Yeah.
They worked hard. I mean, they played hard, but they worked hard too.
Yeah, they kept producing albums. So this was their 5th album. The first one was in 81, I think. Too Fast for Love was 81. So yeah, between 81 and 89. This is their 5th studio album, so very prolific, always releasing stuff. Keeping the fans happy. Release an album, go on tour. Release an album, go on tour. That's the way to do it, and they stayed relevant that way in their own right.
The lyrics to this song are pretty
inappropriate.
Yeah.
Well, he mentions a schoolgirl. What does he say about the schoolgirl there?
Well, first of all, this girl, so young, ever get caught, they'll arrest me. Schoolgirl studied up well on hoochie coochie.
Right. Yeah. I assume they're not self-incriminating, but let's just say these guys were, like I said, they're in their mid to late 20s at the height of their career. Groupies at every show. We were teenagers when we saw them on their 5th album. I would assume they had a few teenage groupies. Let's just be honest here. There's just
It's
no
just
way.
interesting, like no one would think anything of the lyrics back then, but today.
No. You can't write that today.
Yeah. Now, this song, I
Dave.
actually don't know what my worst song is.
Okay.
I have not picked, so we're just going to go through it, and I'll pick at the end for sure.
Okay. Now, the outro to this song is kind of interesting.
Which I do not like. It dragged out.
Yeah. They patterned after that Beatles song. I agree, Jade. The outro with the song, it does drag out. It's unnecessary, but let's see if we can just find Mick's guitar part here.
That was a great guitar song.
Yeah, it is.
And in there, the bass line and even the drumming, speaking of Steven Tyler, is very reminiscent of Aerosmith's sound.
Yeah. I got that sound.
From Pump. It's almost like somebody wrote an Aerosmith song and gave it to Mötley Crüe. The whole kind of groove is Aerosmith. So it's interesting that
Steven's
Tyler
kind of hanging out in the
little
studio.
scream at the
Throughout the whole album, of course, Tommy's drum sound this whole album is awesome. Just that thick don't sound is just him pounding the skins is amazing. Yeah, that's a great guitar solo. If you listen to just that solo, like, boy, this is what I'm getting at. I think sometimes these guitar works by Mick gets lost in maybe the song itself not being great. Or
it gets
here or
lost in the reputation of Mötley Crüe completely because everybody talks about them, drugs, the overdosing, the girls, Vince Neil being in that car accident.
Yeah.
And all these other side stories, and Mick is just quietly uninvolved in a lot of that, or seemingly uninvolved.
Here's the outro, a sample of the outro and kind of how it drags, but this is how it sounds. So what they're sampling there, I Want You, She's So Heavy. They sample a part of the Beatles song in that outro. I'm not familiar with that song, but if you are familiar with that song, you'll hear it in that. But it is a long outro. We just played the tail end of it, but it repeats for almost like a minute. So that song could have been made a little bit tighter had they not done that long outro. The next song, the Rattlesnake Shake. Jay, have you ever done the Rattlesnake Shake on the dance floor?
No.
This is a song that when I first heard it, I wasn't that crazy about. But when you actually listen to that riff again by Mick, it's heavier and crunchier than maybe you remember.
It helps pick the album back up from, in my opinion, from Slice of Your Pie.
Especially that long outro.
Yeah, it brings us back into a decent rock hook and all the rest.
I love the little horn section there.
See, again, that's Aerosmith.
That's Aerosmith from their Pump in the Permanent Vacation. They did a lot of horns.
Yeah. Yeah.
But different producers. Bruce
Interesting.
Fairburn did Pump and Permanent Vacation, but they're both in the same studio. So I wonder if there was definitely some staff room chatter that, hey, you guys just throw some horns in your album too. So that might have been the flavor of that studio back then, was the sound, the same machines, the equipment, the time too, the era of just throwing some horns into these metal bands. Or
Which
rock and roll
again, we've
bands.
talked about Mötley Crüe being more of a radio mass appeal approach to this album.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Rock helping in that. Now, going back to Bob Rock as well, the reason why Bob Rock ended up producing Metallica's Black Album is because Metallica heard the Dr. Feelgood album and thought it was beautifully produced and wanted Bob Rock to help them. So Bob Rock sold his services to Metallica based off of the work that he did with Dr. Feelgood and Mötley Crüe. Long term, is that a good thing?
So we discussed that quite a bit on our check out the Metallica Black episode that we did, where we discuss those points. So for better or for worse, like we said there, the album
Right.
exists, puts them in the stratosphere where we can enjoy other stuff from the band that are a little bit deeper cuts and what have you, because of the longevity that album did for them. Just some parts of the song I want to point out here, or here. I like this part here. You got the horns, the breakdown. I enjoy this. The bass line by Nicky. Great sound coming up.
Sex emotion, just take my time. Wishing for the lips of an outlash fine. Got the raptor, snake wants to spit. Got 976 in my hand.
But I love that little sound effect that it uses before the vocals kick in. You know what I'm talking about? The little wow.
This is a pretty solid song.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot there's a lot going on. Mick Mars sounds great. His guitaring in here and that bass groove. This is a pretty solid song.
Yeah,
This one holds up well.
it's a fun song, and I think it ages better now than it did even when I first heard the song.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah,
I'm not really a fan of the horns,
sure.
but it doesn't completely bother me. It doesn't put me off of the song.
I love how he mentions the love lines of 976 numbers. Remember back in the day, 976 were the sex worker or hot talk with the girls. You'd call these 976 numbers and like, hey, sexy, what are you wearing? Oh, I don't know. What are you wearing? Like, people pay like an inordinate amount of money to talk to whatever on the other line. It's crazy. That's before the internet, right? So now they have other activities. Okay. So not a bad start to the album. Track 5 comes in, and I'll give them credit that they didn't put this song as the opening track. They put it in the middle of the album, which I think is a great way of doing that. Well, it's a song that needs its own introduction because the opening riff, the opening chords, is its own introduction. And when you hear this song, I will say this right now, this is probably one of the greatest rock songs ever made. Like, if you were to piece together, we're talking rock, whatever genre the Mötley Crüe falls in, okay? I'm not talking about, again, Pink Floyd enough of that stuff. I'm talking hard rock. Let's move, let's drive, let's do whatever it is got to do. Like, bang your head, bang your fists.
If you're playing this song while driving and you're not speeding, yeah, you're lost.
Like, honestly, and I'm not saying there's any hyperbole or over-exaggeration. This is one of the greatest hard-charging rock songs ever made. I don't know how many can top this song for rock, hard rock, in your face. Here we go. sometimes a band just knows when they strike gold. I wonder when they're doing this song and they're making this, like they're realizing, boy, we got something here that just...
Of the songs that we played so far, this is more reminiscent of like Girl, Girl, Girls.
Yeah, that could have been that was the album.
Like I don't think it was. It wasn't written there because if I remember Vince Steele talking about, the song is him replacing drugs with driving fast car, like race car driving, was a replacement for his adrenaline needs or addictive needs or whatever, if I recall the story correctly. And also the drumming and stuff was more reminiscent to me of previous albums.
Yeah, so this is definitely, it's referring to Nikki Sixx's heart being kickstarted, but of course they use in the music video and the idea of the adrenaline rush of skydiving and extreme sport. This is certainly the heaviest and fastest beats per minute song they probably ever did.
Well, at least on this album.
Yeah. I would say Red Hot's one that's pretty fast too. That's a fast drum beat song, if you can remember that at Red Hot. And guitar chord heavy, I think Knock 'Em Dead Kid's still pretty heavy, but not as fast paced. The best part of the song, though, is coming up next. It's like the mini bridge. It's just, you know what part I'm talking about? It's before he starts the second verse. I don't know what it is. The only thing that bugs me is they do it a little bit early in the song, and I wish they repeated it later, but that's okay. We get it. We get it all the same at least once. I love that. I got trouble in my... I love the way they sing that part. And the way they go into that second verse, I kind of just wish they did it one more time, but they didn't. In the middle of the song, they have this kind of tribute of when we started this band, all we needed was a laugh. Years gone by, and say we've kicked some ass. It's interesting because when we're listening to this, when we're younger, we're thinking, oh yeah, these guys have been around forever. I mean, I was just a kid when they came out. I'm 14 now. There was only 8 years between their first and second album, or sorry, their first and their fifth album. And now, granted, they did a lot in those 8 years, but that's all it was 8 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy looking back. I like the way that they bring into like all the things, and they did do a lot of things. So credit to them. They're like patting themselves on the back. Look at what we've done. I actually quite like the fact that they were, I guess, boasting or whatever.
Sure. In
this song. I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, well, the line was, all we needed was a laugh. So it's kind of almost, we're just doing it for fun.
Right.
Then years gone by, like, holy, we're selling out stadiums.
When we started this band, our needed was a laugh. Years gone by, I say we've kicked some ass. When I rage, you hit the stage, drilling wells through my veins, and I say we're still kicking ass. Kicks down the hall, we never stopped till the day we did all of this to
I love that part.
Yeah.
To say, we're still doing this, and they still are.
It's crazy how much time has passed since this song has come out.
More time, way more time.
Yeah, 33 years.
We're still doing this. We're still doing this.
They wouldn't do it if people didn't show up.
If people complain, oh, they're over the hill, they should hang. They didn't show up and stop buying their tickets, and they'll stop touring.
They can't tour if nobody shows up.
Exactly. So, and they've done this to the whole world.
Yeah.
As they say.
It's insane.
It was impressive.
It's really cool to think they're just 28, 27 right here. And I was also thinking of their contemporaries at the time, because this song, again, like I can't say enough good things about it. It's a song I've never been bored hearing. It was a single, so it doesn't suffer from that for whatever reason. Some good songs overcome time and being singles and playing at every it doesn't matter. This is a song that you just never get bored of hearing. But I wonder what their contemporaries saw at the time. Like, I mean, like Guns N' Roses, even Metallica. When they heard this song, I wonder if they could be honest with themselves, like, oh man, they killed it. Did Axl hear this after Appetite came out, before Use Illusions came out? If he's like, ooh, maybe that's why I gotta do a song like Don't Damn Me. Like, you gotta wonder, as contemporaries in the field, they're like, ooh, that song killed it. And certainly Lars felt something because he went to Bob Rock.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, Guns N' Roses, obviously being a much younger band at the time, their first album came out in 87. This album came out in 89.
Right.
And Guns N' Roses opened for Mötley Crüe, right?
I think there must have been a time there was an opening. Yes, I think so. You can't help but be in the same field of labor, whatever it is, whether it's artwork or movies or whatever, when you're like, ooh, boy, those guys, they struck gold on that one. Do we up our game? How do we answer this call, so to speak, in the same stadium field, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And healthy competition, we talked about this before. It's good because it ups everyone's game.
Okay, boys, let's rock the
Big flourish exit. So, all right. I think this song was the end of side 2, the next one, Without You. Of course, this is now very popular back in the 80s to have bands, heavy metal bands, rock and roll bands, hard rock bands, whatever genre you want to call this, hard rock, to have ballads. Ballads were big on the airplay. Talk about airplay. I mean, Mötley Crüe knew that with the Home Sweet Home on the Theater of Pain album. But funny enough, on the Girls Girls album, Jay, they had one ballad on there, but it was too dark for airplay. I don't know if you remember that one. You're All I Need.
Yeah.
I love that song, by the way. But it deals about a boyfriend killing his girlfriend. That's the whole subject matter about. It's a love song, but it's about love so strong and so blind, or you know what I mean, so rage filled too, that he murders his girlfriend. It's actually it's a brutally brutal video for its time, anyways. Very dark matter, but it's a haunting song. It's quote unquote a slow song, but it's not a love ballad. And so Mötley Crüe, they never really had a true ballad as far as love goes until Without You. Now, Without You was written for Tommy and Heather Locklear. During the time of this writing, Nikki Sixx said he wrote this as a love letter to their relationship because at that time they were truly the height of their love and they were really good with each other and it was a very healthy, fun relationship. So this was a love song written for Tommy and Heather Locklear.
Without you, there's no change. And nights and days are gray. If I reached out and touched the rain, it just wouldn't feel the same. Without you, I'd be lost. I slipped down from the top. Had to lie down so low, you never know.
Are you listening to Mick's guitar work in the background there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great sound from Mick. But Vince is singing really well here, too. There's no way he's a fake singer.
Every band, I don't care if you're ABBA, Queen, they all use studio to help. Elton John, every major singer has used studio to help their vocals on the studio albums. Vince is one of those singers where he has to be able to sing or else you can't be on an album. Like, you throw me in 1989 studio technology, I'm not going to sound like this. There's nothing you can do to make me sound good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds
Absolutely.
great. As far as ballads go, this is a very solid song. I quite like it. And the lyrics.
It's a love letter. It's hokey and cheesy in its own.
Yeah, ballads were a big deal back then.
Absolutely. The airplay.
Every band had, like at this time, mid to late 80s, early 90s, they all had a ballad.
This is what got the girlfriend to the concert.
Sure.
This is ticket sales. It's smart business because if you just did Kickstart My Heart, as much as I and you would have loved that, a whole album of Kickstart My Hearts, sure. But you want to bring your girl to the show? Oh, honey, they'll play Without You, and they did. And that's how they got the girls to the shows.
Without you, a sailor lost at sea. Without you, the world comes down.
But I want to showcase, of course, Mixed Soul here. slide guitar. That was a big thing back then when we saw the music video. We're like, oh, it's a slide guitar. You know, I never was quite familiar with them, but he nails that sound on this song. It was a big slide guitar production song.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful song. Memories. I think I danced with a couple gals back in the day or kissed a couple gals during this song. I'll tell you that much. Jason, the next song, Same Old Situation. This was a good, fun party song, if I remember correctly. I believe, if you want to bring up the lyrics, well, now, it talks about the idea that his girlfriend or someone he's in love with was a lesbian or something like that, or she swung the other way and it threw him off and that. But back then in 89, to talk about the idea that your girlfriend might have been, or the girl that you liked or whatever, wasn't straight, essentially. But the music video was a lot of fun because this was old concert footage. They put a video camera in a ball that the crowd, bounced around. And you remember that? Okay. We're back to Fun Time, Party Time, USA, Mötley Crüe sound here. Oh, this is also a fun song too because we see, and Vince did it. He'd bring his guitar out. He would play guitar in this song. I like the idea that we're allowed to pretend that Vince can play guitar. It's showmanship. I don't think it was ever plugged in. It's like when you give your little kid the remote control, but it's not plugged into the PlayStation. We're all pretending that he's pretending to play, and we're all just, yeah, you're playing.
And if he's playing, it's turned down.
It's turned right down, yeah.
I got something to say. She got an alligator back, time head to match. Dressed in black on black. She got a Filipino girl she claims as a friend. I tell you boys, you just gotta laugh. Now I used to call her city, she changed her name to Sin. I guess that's the name of her game. Yeah, I really used to love her. Then the kid that she discovered, it's gotta be a sexual thing. Now all around the world, our girls will be girls. It's the same old situation. It's the same old ball and chain. I say no.
Yeah, so I just read the lyrics too there. Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I forgot the lyrics were pretty clear, yeah. She's got a Filipino girlie she claims is her friend. I tell you boys, you just gotta laugh. So there you go. So then they get married later on in the song, and so it's tongue-in-cheek. It's done in old good fun, and I don't think they mean anything by it. They're not making fun of those relationships, but they're just saying, oh, that girl I had a crush on, or that girl. Oh, but I love how they make it say it's the same old situation. It's like, well, they make it sound like this is so common that all your girlfriends end up being. I don't understand that part of it, but it's just funny how she got the taste of, I really used to love her than the kitty she discovered. Yeah, so anyways. One of their girlfriends went gay, which I'm sure if all the girls they've been with, that's probably a high likelihood that one of them.
I suspect at the end of the day, they didn't care.
No, I think they had a lot to choose from. Oh, man, that's it. My love life is over.
I've worked actually a couple of Mötley Crüe shows.
Right.
I saw what was happening during Mick Mars' guitar solo. Tommy Lee and some of the backup dancers going into his dressing room. Tommy Lee not really wearing anything. When the guitar solo was done, he put on barely some clothes on.
Yeah, he wore those leather underwear pants or whatever he wore. Yeah.
So they had
fun.
They as of a couple of years ago, still were. So
sure. Some people live a life, I tell you. Yeah, they're never bored. I don't think they were ever bored.
No.
Now this is the part where, of course, in the video that we see Vince playing his guitar, you'll hear the studio version, of course, of the guitar solo going. Like Mick doesn't do it very often because he's the only guitarist in the band. But in this song, I don't know why, we don't really believe it's Vince playing, but you'll really hear the second guitar strumming rhythm that you don't hear very often in Crüe songs. It's either one guitar or another, like it's lead or it's not. But here you hear a definite second guitar that Vince, of course, is supposedly playing. See, me and the boys are going to do some rock and roll. This is what he's saying. I love this drum work here from Tommy.
Same old situation.
It's a fun song. I don't care what it says.
It is a fun song. And there's no way that Vince Neil do the back and forth. There's no way he all of a sudden decides to, I haven't done any guitar solos before, but this time I will.
According to Wikipedia, it just says here rhythm guitar. Now, it doesn't say for that song necessarily. It just says here Vince Neil lead and backing vocals,
Sure,
rhythm guitar, harmonica,
yeah, I
and
suspect
shakers.
I suspect on songs he would have strummed in.
Sure.
He's not soloing. He's definitely just strumming along because he can.
All right, so Jason, here we go. We're back to the same old Crüe, Sticky Sweet.
When you call me up, my voice starts to shake. See us come right over right away. Good God, there's a fire in my pants. Get lightning strikes as you laugh at me. So sticky, so sticky, so sticky. She's so sticky, so sticky, so sticky sweet.
All right, so this is a classic Crüe sound, but you know, it's funny. It is the classic Crüe sound. I will say, I think this is definitely a Mick song. I think Mick likes that blues rock. That's what he likes. That's his sound. I think he enjoys that kind of the bluesy type of rock sound. This is like a blues rock song. The lyrics are not old-fashioned, so to speak, but the blues sound. You take away the lyrics, it's just a kind of a blues rock song. Like, you can almost see ZZ Top playing this type of sound.
It starts strong, and then once he starts singing, it seems to, I don't know.
It's not the strongest
Falls flat.
vocal. It's actually
No.
not the strongest vocals either from Vince. I think there's a part, though, in the song that's redeemable. This part here, I do like this sound of this part of the song. Listen to it with me and tell me if you agree. But I do like how there's something about the way it's recorded and mixed. I like the bass line that plays in the background. It's the highlight of the song. So there's something going on there. You got the bass line in the background, but then you got one guitar solo, and then that really deep. Is that a guitar?
It sounds like there might be a little bit of slap bass.
Yeah, but there's like two basses playing.
To me, to me, that had an Aerosmith, Tom Hamilton bass sound. Think of Janie's Got a Gun kind of bass sound.
Yeah,
that is the best part of the song.
That is the best part of the song.
They say Sticky Sweet way too many times. She's so sticky.
Yeah. I don't want to give away our picks necessarily right now.
I don't have a pick yet. So
no, I don't either.
It's not a strong song.
It's not as strong. I think a lot of it has to do with the chorus isn't that strong. Vince's vocal work is kind of dialed in, I think, a little bit in the song. He almost sounds bored.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
I would be bored too if I was singing Sticky Sweet over and over.
Now, do you remember who we thought the guest vocalist for the next song was? She Goes Down?
No.
I was under the wrong impression, Jason. You know the part in the middle? Oh, we'll get to it. Anyways, this is one of their better non-single songs they've ever released, I think. It's just a good banger of a song.
Little Miss Muffet's school stopping. I
there's a guest singer that comes on in the middle of the song. I used to think it was Sebastian Bach all this time. And it wasn't until I re-listened to it like yesterday to refresh my brain for our review. Like, oh, that's not Sebastian Bach's voice. But you know the part I'm talking about, right?
No, go to it.
Yeah. This is a guest singer that comes on right here. Now, speaking of Bruce Fairbairn, he also produced Skid Row's album, Slave to the Grind. That being said, I thought it was at the same studio, so I thought Sebastian Bach was guest. Now, members of Skid Row do sing on this album. They sing background vocals on the song at the end of the album, Time for Change. Members of Skid Row sing. Oh. But Sebastian Bach did not sing the back. There's a guy named Robin Zander.
Oh.
Yeah. Robin Zander is an American singer, songwriter, and rhythm guitarist. He's known for the lead singer, Cheap Trick.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's who is singing. I was today years old when I thought all this time was Sebastian Bach. This Robin Zander singing that. So cool.
He sounds great.
Maybe I should check out a couple Cheap Trick songs. I kind of like that vocal sound there. Whatever he did there sounded really cool. It really fit the song.
I saw a Cheap Trick a month and a half ago. They opened up for ZZ Top.
Were they good?
Oh, they're fine.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm just saying. Adding to the conversation.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were going to drop something. I'm like, oh, he doesn't. All right. Yeah, so good for him.
No, they were actually very entertaining.
Oh, good. There you go.
Yeah, very, very solid set.
Well, I hope so after all these years, too. But they know how to... I'm just not familiar with their stuff, but I know they've been around forever, so good for them. But I just love that guest vocal part. I always got a kick out of it, and all these years, my untrained ear thought it was Sebastian Bach, which I should know better. And it wasn't until yesterday, at the age of 46, when I was re-listening to the list, I was like, that doesn't quite sound like... Who is it then? So I went to, that's Cheap Trick. All right, so they released a second single, Jason, for this album that was a ballad, and that is, of course, the next song called Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. It's kind of like a ballad, yes, but it's not a ballad.
I wouldn't consider it a ballad.
Would you? No, okay, no. I guess not. Okay, you're right. But it's a build-up song, I guess you could say.
It's a fun song.
It is a great song.
Yeah.
It's not a ballad but it's a little bit slowish, but then it kind of builds up, if that makes sense.
The chorus is...
Yeah. Great bass line there.
It is very good.
I love that. Too Young to Fall in Love. I like a little callback to their Shout the Devil album. I love when they throw lyrics. I love when bands throw in lyrics from other songs. They just chuck them in like that. Too Young to Fall in Love. This is a fun song. It's one of those songs where I hate interrupting it because it just keeps building on itself. There's no real natural breaks. It just keeps building up. Vince has great vocals. He's not dialing this one in at all. Like, he's got a great influx of his voice as it changes and enunciates the lyrics.
Yeah, it's a great delivery.
Yeah, delivery.
As he tells the story.
That's right.
As he tells the story of what's going on.
And this is directed at the band members. This was written to each other. This was Nicky's idea, was the band talking to themselves. Apparently, they didn't get along very well during the recording of this album. Sometimes conflict causes, good art or good songs, but they recorded their pieces separately with Bob Rock at times.
Oh.
So it's weird. Which kind of makes sense because it was shortly after this that Vince left the band, right? So. how fast he's actually, those notes are coming in the mix solo work. That's fast finger play there.
Yeah, this is a very solid song in all aspects. The singing, the storytelling. This is a remastered version of the album, which they did a good job at pushing up the bass. I'm noticing throughout this whole, as we've been listening, the bass is way more noticeable. I'm enjoying the bass lines, Nikki Sixx's bass lines, much more than I have in the past. This is a very solid song. I think I like a lighthearted, a fun song. Gets the whole crowd kind of, especially now as just where you paused it.
There's no natural areas to pause because every part just kind of builds up. I don't like to stop it. You can just hear Tommy just pounding. You know how he drums, right? But you can see him in the studio. He's just hitting the drums. You can just almost just hear how hard he hits.
Have you seen this song performed live?
We did. It was our first show.
Live, as in, like, there's a performance of them that I recall in my mind. MTV Music Awards.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look at it.
It's great.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look. And Tommy's just smashing. You can hear it.
Well, just the whole band is just smashing.
All right. Now, that should have been the closer to the album. And I know this song, Time for Change, is the closer. Ballad to me is always hard to say because ballad to me is like love song, right? But this is definitely a slower song. It has a build up. I actually kind of like this song in some ways. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. It's really, I don't know how to explain it. It sounds different than the rest of the album in some ways. And I don't know why that is per se. But check this out, Jay. This song actually can't be your worst pick, officially. Why, you ask, Jason? Well, as per our rules, every man...
Well, one it would not have been, but...
Okay, every band... Well, one of our listeners made this their pick, I think. And I'll have to tell this listener. The reason why it can't be, because officially, Nikki Sixx does not play bass on this song. For whatever reason. Bob Rock steps in and plays bass.
Of course he does. Of course Bob Rock has to... Oh, okay.
Now, sorry, Nikki Sixx still wrote the lyrics. He wrote the lyrics for every song on the album. All lyrics were written by Nikki Sixx. Time for Change was also written by the background singer that they had with, the blonde-haired girl they always had singing in the background with them for Wild Side Video and the Dr. Feelgood tour. They had those two blondes singing with them.
Maybe I saw her go backstage with Tommy.
Probably. She was a co-writer on this song. She's the background vocals that you hear sing. She does a great job on it. But anyways, Bob Rock plays bass on this song.
I tried so hard to be the bass player for Metallica.
Well, he played all the bass on Saint Anger, and he wanted to play the bass as a...
And he left his mark because he played on the worst album that they ever made.
Yeah.
Questionably.
Side note, if you see the Saint Anger songs Metallica plays live now with them, and they add the solos in, it's amazing. It's amazing how much different the songs sound live today with Kirk with his solos in them. It's pretty cool. Anyways, a little side note there. Okay. Well, here we go. Time for Change. Tommy on keyboards, of course. Tommy on keyboards.
Yes.
I heard some kids telling me how they've lost all the faith in the rain. They've been talking about this now and the wars in the streets. The lines of their faces so deep. A revolution that will reach out and touch the day we'll ever do, child. Change, now it's time for change. Nothing stays the same. Now it's time for change. Change, now it's time for change. Nothing stays the same. Whoa.
I don't know. I like it. something about it. It's kind of a fun. This is like adult contemporary. I don't know, but I just like the earnestness of the message of the youth will change the world. I get sucked in. I get it. It's their own version of We Are the World. I know, but come on.
They repeat Time for Change too much.
They do. It's a little bit long. It's a song that could have been worked as a little shorter. I agree.
Vince sounds great though.
Let's hear mixed solo because I think it's probably banger. That's a really good part. There's another part that when they amp it up a little bit, the chorus is repeated. But I think the song was written or co-written with Donna, the backup singer, that was with the band since the Girls, Girls, Girls tour. She sang on the Wild Side video. And I'm wondering what her part was, but she definitely showcases her vocals here. And I want to show that. And then it outros with a mix. Pretty solid guitar. I don't know. But I love her little... She goes off script, not off script, but you can hear her come through the foreground a little bit. That
they bumped her up in the mix.
Yeah. Anyways, that ends with the song Time for Change. It's a song to the youth, the Mötley youth, youth gone wild. Whatever. The change. You guys are the future. That was us. He was singing us. We were the youth. We were 14 to 16.
And this message hasn't changed.
No, we haven't.
It's always the youth that will change. And then the youth become the adults. And then those adults become idiots. And then we hope that the youth will be future better leaders. But it doesn't seem to happen.
This is a fun album. Their number one selling album. They peaked commercially with the album. It gave them... part of that 100 million album sales was probably a large part of this. I would assume this album probably sold 15 million, 10 to 15 million probably worldwide.
Let's stop guessing. There's got to be a number.
How would I guess? Guessing's fun.
Are you Googling it?
Yeah, I'll Google it.
Because I'm curious to know officially. 11 songs, but it's only a 45 minutes.
6 million copies. There you go.
6?
6 million. In the U.S.
Oh.
So that's not worldwide.
Well, that seems very low to me.
Yeah, and they sold 100 million worldwide total. So that's what I mean. I think greatest hits albums are the big sellers for bands.
Hey, I was going to say, it's only a 45-minute album for 11 songs.
Yeah.
A pretty quick listen.
And it's an easy listen, I think, too.
I don't think I would ever put this CD in, or whatever, however we listen to music nowadays. I would never put this in and listen to it from beginning to end.
Right. Fair enough.
For the rest of my life. And I'm not sure when the last time I have listened to the album from beginning to end. I would suspect I was a teenager.
It's been a while. So, I mean, it's been fun to go down this with memory lane with you. And that there's a time, well, no matter how much anyone likes any song from any band or any album from any band, there will be a time that you'll listen to that song or album the last time. Like, there's always going to be the last time you play a song to listen to a song. I suspect maybe this was going to be our last time in our life that we'll play Dr. Feelgood beginning to end. That being said, I enjoyed it. I loved it. It brought back memories of my youth. There's only so much time in the day throughout each day of my life where I'm going to dedicate 45 minutes today to listen to this album all the way through. But I love that it exists, and I love that we got to live through this heyday, man. We were there. It's, total nostalgic. I'm not looking at this objectively necessarily as much as just, it has flaws. We talked about those flaws with each song as we went through it, but definitely a big part of our youth. And so Jason, of those 11 songs,
I'm struggling.
We can't do TNT because Vince Neil did not sing in it. So we got Dr. Feelgood, Slice of Your Pie, Rattlesnake Shake, Kickstart My Heart, Without You, Same Old Situation, Sticky Sweet, She Goes Down, a lot of S's, Don't Go Away Mad, and Time for Change. And yes, we'll throw that in there even though Nikki Sixx doesn't officially play based on that song on the studio version. But he wrote the song at the very least, so every band member was involved to a degree there. So, but even then, it wouldn't have been my pick. I think I've got mine. Mine was between two. I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Slice of Your Pie. One, because it's almost clocks in it. It's 4.5 minutes. It has that long outro. sampled by the Beatles' She's So Heavy. My second pick would have been Sticky Sweet.
I was struggling between those two.
Yeah, Sticky Sweet, it's just, it's a little bit shorter.
The repeating of the
it's
Sticky
shorter.
Sweet is what bugs me.
Right.
The repeating of that lyric.
Oh, you got to pick, Jay. You got to pick. This is the name of the game.
I know. But I think it's Slice of Your Pie too. That outro is just brutal. And it's such a letdown of a song after Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah, it's
just
oddly
drops
placed.
the whole momentum of the album.
Yeah, you'd almost have to give it the pick for, like, why'd you throw it there? Sticky Sweet kind of belongs where it belongs. Second side, in the middle, kind of thrown, lost in the middle a little bit. And then we go into She Goes Down, which is a bit more of a banger. And then Don't Go Away Mad picks it up again. And Timers Change, I like it. Despite its We Are the World contemporariness, I like it. Yeah. I know it gets some hate for some reason, but I actually do quite like it.
I don't think you get much hate for that. It's a little bit corny and hopeful, but at the same time, and Vince sounds amazing on that.
Yeah, he sounds bored on Sticky Sweet, but Slice Your Pie, I think it's just a tad more boring, and it's a longer. I think it just suffers from its placement in the album. It was placed wrong. It could have easily just never existed. We talked about this before. If the song never existed, the album wouldn't be any less in our eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have to pick one. Slice of Your Pie, Sticky Sweet is it's a 1B.
And it's also the whole, like, you Sticky Sweet, what are we referring to? It's like, come on. It's like, stop it, guys. Come on. They're still doing it, like, they're almost 30 years old. Get over it. It's bodily function. Stop. Like, we get it. Anyways. All right. Well, that was our episode of Dr. Feelgood. Remember, if you want to send us an email, yes, if you've enjoyed this and you want us to talk about a topic or a band or an album, send us an email to worstofthebestpodcast@gmail.com. That is worstofthebestpodcast@gmail.com. Check out the show notes for that email as well. We'd like to hear from you and what you feel about the show, and also any other suggestions or albums or bands that you want us to review and react to. In this area of genre. Keep in mind our ages. Certain albums we know very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Remember, in front of every silver lining, there's a cloud. And today it was Slice of Your Pie.
Gamma Gator Productions.